I'm live. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? So, I want to jump in and talk about emotions because emotions are like a minefield for so many humans. And I had a couple of conversations today that prompted me into speaking about this. So, it's not going to be a long one, genuinely, because this could be like a day. I could speak to you about it for a whole day. But I want to give you three ways to approach your emotions because there's a lot of messaging around out there about this is what you need to do and this is what you need to do and you should be doing it this way. And I've found through all of the emotional work that I've done on myself over a decade, and also with it tends to be the area that I do a lot of work with people when they come into my space, because you cannot escape from the emotions being a human on this planet. So what I found, and I want to just talk you through really really quickly, just to give you an idea that you can take away maybe one of these three, maybe more, that you feel would really benefit you right now. And this is in the context of where you are and maybe what you've already done, because what works for you at one stage is most likely not going to be the same thing that will work for you at another stage. So I'm going to just talk very briefly around three ways that I have used myself and that I typically use with clients. And then you can just see, hopefully, which ones you feel more practiced with, and maybe the ones that maybe could even be a missing piece. So number one is really this approach is if you haven't really done very much with the emotions in your life. So maybe you just haven't sat, you've not really done any kind of therapy, inner work, shadow work, diving in, EFT, energy work, all of that thing, kind of thing around your emotions. And maybe you are where I was. I definitely relate to this, like very in the head, you're very mind based, and you do a lot of thinking. So maybe you're more of a thinking person more than you've actually really gone into your emotions. So if that's you and you haven't done very much, what can be really, really liberating is to actually make space. So when your emotions come in, the cue for you would be to really start to practice giving yourself some space, which could be so revolutionary when you do this for the first time, of what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Give yourself space to just feel it, notice what comes up. And that's the part of it where you go into that kind of deeper level, you know, wondering what the triggers are and where it's come from, and kind of going on this journey of maybe processing the past, right? Things that have happened to you. So if you've had any kind of traumatic background, and majority of humans have, even if it's not big obvious traumas, we've all been traumatized in some level just by being here on the earth plane in current times. I believe that fully, that we all have different levels. So this can be really significant for you if you've never done any of that. When emotions come in, instead of trying to ignore them, distracting yourselves, I used to do that with glass of wine, watching TV. Work was my escape from all things emotional. I just used to throw myself into work, never feeling and acknowledging. So that can be really a really itchy nose. That can be really liberating if you've not done that kind of part of the work before. But that's not the only way. So sometimes, so we're going to move on another layer here. When you're someone who's done a lot of that, there then comes a time where the next approach is probably going to might feel more helpful to you, when you've done nothing but delve in, you've processed. So I remember that phase of, like, I had done non-stop of diving in and processing and releasing and all of that clearing. And it was so necessary for me because I had so much emotional baggage and heaviness and things that were, weighing on me. But there comes a point then, at some point, and you may feel this now, you may have had it, or you may go into it, where that's not the helpful thing, because that can actually lead us into endlessly doing that, never really moving forwards beyond that, and kind of getting stuck in the emotional work. So on that one, I've had clients often that have come in and they're very clued up with that. They do it all the time. They're really, really in tune with their emotions. But sometimes the emotion then starts to take over, and they kind of they don't really do the thing that they're doing. Let me give you an example. So let's say in the spiritual, entrepreneurial, creativity world, I've had many clients who've said, like, for example, oh, I don't want to do this thing, this big adventurous thing because I've got fear coming up. And as I feel my fear, I'm in touch with my emotions, and it's reminding me of the time when I was, and they'll bring up a memory, or they'll relate it to something perhaps that they experienced, but there's a whole meaning attached to it still. And it's not that the emotion itself needs to be processed, because actually it kind of has. It's more attaching to the emotion and feeling like you've got to do something with it. So for that category of people, what could be really helpful is to know that you have the emotion and put it aside and move forward anyway. So that can be a really liberating way. We're not ignoring the emotion because we know enough how to process and feel it, but we're saying, let's put it over here. We can come back to it, but I can still go and do this, and I can come back and deal with this. So we're not using the emotion as a almost like a crutch or a blanket, right? To kind of go, oh no, I need to heal and like really release this and not go and take steps forward, because I do see people get stuck on that. But again, that's not irrelevant to you. That's not relevant to you if you've never done the processing, right? So these pieces are only depending on where you are. I'm just giving you an idea of where you might feel you might need to do some focus. And then the third way, I wrote it down because I forget and go off on a massive tangent. The third way is to feel the emotion, allow yourself, acknowledge that you're feeling something, but you don't necessarily have to understand it. So that's the other part of this, which could be really interesting to start tapping into. And I started doing more of this one um, last year and a lot this year, where because I've done a lot of processing, I've done a lot of healing and release and all sorts of things. And I've also done a lot of, I can manage my emotions, I can put them over here and I can do the thing and I can come back to the emotion, I can still move forwards. But what I started practicing this year, particularly this year, and I had guidance from my Arcturian team who were really, really clued up on this, of course, because they're very advanced beings. And there's a whole area around we can feel our emotions, but actually we don't have to attach meaning to it. And if we allow the emotion and the feeling to just move through the body, we can just breathe, we can just not judge it, we can sit with it. It's another approach, right? Because sometimes a lot of us are picking up a lot of, say, collective emotions and energy. Hey, Darren. A lot of us are picking up a lot of energy from the collective, and sometimes we don't even know why we're feeling the thing. And sometimes you've gone like out to the supermarket or out for a walk and you're feeling like heaviness and you're feeling low, but it doesn't really belong to you. It's could be collective stuff. So that's really helpful there, where you don't even have to go into the story. You just recognize, I'm feeling heavy, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling overloaded. I'm going to let myself feel it. I'm going to give myself what I need. So there's nothing to heal and process. You don't want to put it to one side and just get on with it, because actually you want to feel it, but you're just allowing yourself and just to allow the energy to move. So it's energy in motion is what emotions are. It's just energy in motion. It's moving through you. And my Arcturian team, I learn all the time from them. And one of the things they were sharing was that the higher dimensional beings, they do have emotions. So this sometimes people have an idea that if you're 5D and above, you don't have emotions. Yes, emotions are a spectrum, they're energy. But let's say the Arcturians, they describe to me how they can have an immense amount of love, and they feel sad for humanity, some of what they see, but they also understand on a higher level, and they have all this love and joy, and they experience all these things. The difference between them is that because they're advanced, they have learned how to master their emotions, not control them. It's never about controlling your emotions, but mastering them. So they don't have this story that goes with their emotions. They just know how to allow them, so that they don't have the issues that we have, right? So those are three ways. So I'm very cautious when I speak about this, because it's such a vast area. I just wanted to highlight these, but know that it's not about boxing yourself into any of these. You might be doing all three of these. And also it does depend massively on what stuff you've got inside of you. Like there is a difference between people who've gone through major trauma, for example, and are yet to process that, versus someone who maybe doesn't have that, but they have other emotions. So I hope you feel that I'm being careful around how I'm reframing or framing all of this for you, so you can just hold it lightly and just see which ones of these feel more like, do you need to be doing a little bit more of, right? Because some of you need processing, some of you need to not be so attached to your emotions and start to actually move yourself forward as well and do the things in spite of the fear or in spite of whatever comes up. But also sometimes we don't want to attach to the story and we just want to allow the emotions, but sometimes we actually need to process the story. So it's so varied, but I just want to give you an idea because there's a lot of boxed in ways I see out there, and emotions is a huge part. It's a huge part of how I work with someone. I don't think I've ever worked with anyone where emotions has not come up because it's like breathing. But yeah, just see which ones of these come in for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch or pop a comment below. So my emotions scare and confuse me often. Yeah, thank you for sharing that because that is what a lot of people feel, right? Even the feeling around their emotions, it scares and confuses. And you know, we don't get taught this at school. This is a great example of how how our systems have been set up. They teach us all this other crap at school and never teach us how to regulate our emotions, right? That would be quite a useful task, to give a child a useful approach, right? So you're saying I can't control them and they just pounce on me at times. Yeah. So what that is, so number one, and I bet you speak for a lot of people here because that's a very common one. Number one, you're not looking to control them. What happens when you control, let's use anger, because anger is a great big one, right? That most people are like afraid of having. So let's say we have anger, it's just an emotion, it comes up and it feels really, really big. So what do we typically do? If we don't know what to do with it, we squish it down and we hold it down because we think that's the way. And then what happens when something really triggers us? You ever had it where it annoys you and then you've blown like a volcano, right? A lot of us have had an experience of that where we can relate. So the reason you blow like a volcano is because how I describe it to clients, imagine you have a box, you've stuffed all your emotions in there, the ones that don't feel okay. You've stuffed them in, you've put a lid on, and you've leaned on the box, and you've held the lid down. You've used so much energy to hold it down, hold it down, hold it down. When you let go, there's a lot sometimes that comes up. So that's why it can be quite overwhelming and scary when you first, depending on your situation, right? When you first open that lid, because you're like, holy crap, there's a lot in there. I felt like that. I remember really kind of I like felt everything. I started crying at adverts on the TV. It was like the lid had come off, and I was in this phase of I felt everything, like, and it was like a backlog. So sometimes that happens. So this is why getting outside help, right? So if for any of you that are feeling this, like this is part of what I do. So just if you're not sure, just get in touch. We can have a chat and work out if there's anything that I can do to help you with that, or if it could even be something you can do yourself. But it's like I needed to have an outside person to help me process because I was really going around in the dark going, I don't know what these emotions feel like. I don't know which ones are okay. Yeah, so you used to do that, hold it all in and hide it. No more. So this is another thing. If you used to do it and hold it in, you might find that because you're not, you've gone a little bit to the other end of the spectrum, where you're really expressing, you're really in touch with them, right? You're really feeling them. You're feeling anger. You're feeling sadness. So know that that's okay because actually everything that comes up, we often go to the other end, the other extreme end, and then what happens is you do balance out after a while. So it might be that that's what's happening. You've kind of held it all in and then you haven't, and now you're really in touch with them. That's why it can be quite exhausting because you're processing all the time. So wherever you are on that, that is okay. Yeah, but it's a big topic. It's a big topic. So maybe I'll do another live stream to go a little bit into more of that. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, let me know if you've got any questions or anything. Anyone watching the replay as well. But yeah, it's a big juicy one. Emotions, right? Yeah, so you're now the other end. Yeah, yeah. That's a really healthy expression. It's like I said it to my client once. It's like what did I say? It's emotional um paperwork. It's like you've got a backlog of paperwork, right? You've got a whole load of emotional paperwork that's in your cupboard you haven't filed or dealt with, so you've just got a whole stack of it. So you're probably feeling like, yeah, you're knackered. Yeah, so you're just allowing it to come out. Um, Things to ground you will help you. So feel it, feel. Things, like you've got your dogs, walks, things like that, and just grounding and breathing, like lots of breathing. I know it sounds like sometimes breathing sounds really obvious, but breath, like just breathing in deeply and breathing out will really help balance and let things just process. And then the other thing is not giving yourself a hard time for the emotions that you're feeling, because that's the other thing. We make society somehow has made positive emotions into nice, joyous, happy emotions that are acceptable. And then we've made these emotions over here like not okay. They're negative, they're wrong, they're undesirable. And if you look in your family, sometimes you'll notice a pattern that each family often has emotions that were allowed and disallowed. So some families were like chilled out and everything, but they never did anger. For example, everything was repressed down. Some families did anger, but they didn't do tears and sadness. That wasn't allowed. So we all have kind of ideas of what the okay emotions are and what the kind of better emotions are. But when you start to step back and realize all emotions, like just put them in a pot, all emotions are welcome. They all have messages, and just obviously some feel nicer and some feel heavier, right? But they're all okay. Yeah, but it is knackering. So you will drink a lot of water, let yourself feel it. Often it passes. If you feel like you're repeating and repeating the same, then you might want to do a little processing. You be more in that category then of, okay, something needs to be processed, right? So just, that's why I'm so careful of how I'm saying it, because there's so many different, I'm talking three ways, but there are lots of different nuances in them, in those three ways as well. Okay. So walk every day with my dogs, and the best time I relax, think and breathe. Yeah, that's probably really doing you massive amounts of good right now as you process things, because you just breathe and you just let it be. You just let everything fall where it does. And it's okay. And especially when you're alone, you have the time to process. Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. Your dad never did tears, they were bad. Yeah. So it's like we just pass it down. Parents teach their kids, they teach their kids, and we just get it passed down until we start to see it differently. Yeah, and they are okay now. Yeah, they are. They're absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you're saying that, because it is. It's like whether you're a man or woman or whatever, you are, it's tears, it's emotions, right? And that's another thing. We've got the message for men as well, certain generations, that absolutely tears were not okay. I've got a lot of clients, probably about 50, it was 50-50 for a while, male clients, female clients. But yeah, I've worked with enough male clients to know that it's just as much as female clients, right? We're all the same. We have these emotions, but with men, you've had an extra message of man up, right? You don't cry. You don't have this culture historically of getting together with your mates and talking about your feelings and being a bit teary. Like women would be more in tune with that, right? Yeah, your mum was emotional, but dad was not. It was a balance, but hard. Yeah, yeah. And you probably just pick up like unconsciously which ones are like okay, which ones are more comfortable, and then you just squish down the ones that aren't. Like I squished down anger. Anger for me was just not okay. So I had a lot of anger pushed down in my box with the lid on. Um, and I was walking the path, and I'm still processing some of that. I'm still learning, because there's so many layers to this. I'm still learning that anger is a, like, I know that it's an okay emotion, a good emotion, but it's like how to feel the anger first of all, and then it's how to feel the anger and hold it inside of you and not feel like you need to run away or go somewhere, right? That was my kind of, I used to feel the anger and need to just like run out of the room or like slam a door or something, that kind of energy. And now I've like practiced enough to go, no, I can feel the anger and I can be with it. I can just be with it, and it's safe. So there's like all these levels. And I think it's really fascinating because being on the earth plane as a human, our bodies are designed to feel everything. We feel bloody everything. And the more in tune you get, the more you're going to feel. So this is a conversation worth having, right? So it's a big juicy one. So if you're watching this now or watching it later and you feel like, holy crap, you know, I need some help with that, and you're not sure, just reach out. I can have a chit chat with you, or we can messenger or whatever. But there's lots of different avenues for this. All right. And just know that emotions are not bad, they're not good, they're not bad, they're just emotions. They're like weather. You might have a preference for a certain kind of weather, but you know, you can look out the window and see grey clouds and rain, and you know you're going to be okay, but you'd prefer the sunshine, right? It's like that. Get into that level of just having the emotions move through you. Um, and like I said, for the third one, it might be for some of you, it'll be having the emotion and not even having to make it mean anything. Yeah, their emotions are part of the human spirit, exactly. Like having the emotion and just knowing and recognizing I feel dot dot dot, it doesn't mean anything. It's just I feel that way today, right? There's a whole layer around anyone that's in like aware of manifestation, universal laws and energies. There's a whole fear there around I can't let myself feel things because I'll manifest bad things. That is bullshit. That's a bullshit myth that has been distorted. You can feel everything. You can feel everything. It's the feeling that releases and allows it to move so it doesn't become like your stagnant part of your vibration. By feeling it, you move it, by experiencing the feeling. So that's why we chose to come here, because it's a very colorful place. It's a very heavy planet. So we're going to feel a hell of a lot, all sorts of emotions. So it's kind of unbelievable when you think about it then. Why on earth do we not get taught any of this when we're young? Surprise, surprise. Because the system that we're in currently, or historically, has wanted us very disconnected. But this is changing, and we're going to see the new generations of people coming in, younger generations. They're going to be, you may already see this, they're a lot more in tune. There's a higher consciousness coming in, and we are also learning how to raise our consciousness and understand ourselves emotionally, because we've got to do it on all the levels: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Those are the four parts of us. So we've got to be able to balance all of those parts. So you're doing well, you're doing amazing wherever you are on this part of the journey. And if you're watching this, and you feel like you've not done anything on this, there's a reason you're maybe receiving this message, and maybe it's the time that maybe it's an invitation for you to start looking at this part, because it's juicy. Because if we cut off our emotions we don't like, what we're also doing is cutting off the amazing joyous feelings. You can't really have one without the other. So we need to experience all of it. Otherwise, we're cutting off all of our emotions by trying to keep out the ones we don't want, right? And that's why a lot of people walk around feeling flat. They don't feel magical, they don't feel joy, because they don't allow themselves to feel. So I'm very passionate about this area because I know what it feels like. I really do. I know what it feels like to disconnect from that and box it all off, repress it to the point of complete and utter debilitating burnout. But it's good. It's good, not the burnout, but it's good to feel and be healthy with ourselves. All right. So I hope that just gives you a little insight, and you can just see maybe which one of those three fit you a little bit more, but also knowing there are things in between those as well. Yeah. So they do not want us to know the truth and reality. They want brain dead slaves. Exactly. Exactly. And the more flat we are emotionally, the more we're pliable. We'll just nod, we'll go along with things, we'll take in the programming. We won't have this juicy, like vibrant aliveness inside of us. And you can see it in someone's eyes. You can meet somebody and see it in someone's eyes, right, when they've got this spark and they're connected. So best thing you can do, to kind of increase how you even connect with people, is to work on this part of yourself. It's amazing. Yes. So brace all of it. Good needs bad, happy needs sad. Exactly. Well said. Absolutely. So that is it. I'm going to jump off. I've been talking a lot. I did a live stream in my private membership group, and then I did a coded clearing healing session, and then I've just done this live stream. So I'm going to stop talking in just a few moments and give myself some downtime. So, but I do like to talk, I must say. So these live streams are great for me. I hope you enjoy receiving them. So thank you for tuning in and joining me live. Thanks for watching the replay, if you're watching the replay. And again, any questions that come up about this, because it is a juicy big topic, you know where I am. You can always send me a message and or check out ways to work with me if it's something you want to dive into. Okay, thank you, Darren. Right, have a good rest of your evening or day, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, take care.